In the early 18th century, Britain stood at the center of global power. Its navy dominated the seas, its merchants reached across continents, and its influence continued to grow year after year. But beneath this image of strength, Britain faced a quiet and dangerous problem. The nation was drowning in debt. Years of costly wars had drained the treasury, and the government owed enormous sums of money to investors, institutions, and wealthy individuals. Interest payments piled up, confidence began to weaken, and officials searched desperately for a solution that would not require higher taxes or political sacrifice. Then, a company appeared with a promise so elegant, so optimistic, that it seemed almost miraculous. A single company that could solve Britain's debt problem. A single company that could unlock unimaginable wealth. A single company that could transform paper promises into real prosperity. That company was called the South Sea Company, and it would soon become the center of one of the greatest financial delusions in history. The idea behind the South Sea Company sounded reasonable at first. The government would allow the company to take over a large portion of Britain's national debt. In return, the company would receive exclusive trading rights with South America, a region Europeans believed was overflowing with gold, silver, and riches beyond measure. To many, it sounded like a perfect exchange. The government reduced its debt burden, investors gained access to exotic trade, and the economy appeared to gain momentum without pain. There was only one problem. Britain was not truly allowed to trade freely in South America. Spain controlled most of the region, and Spain had little interest in opening its ports to British merchants. Political tensions, territorial disputes, and long-standing rivalries made large-scale trade nearly impossible. But this inconvenient truth was rarely discussed. Instead, attention shifted away from reality and toward imagination. Maps of distant coasts circulated. Rumors of untapped resources spread through coffee houses, and investors began to picture ships returning home heavy with treasure. The South Sea Company did not need to trade successfully. It only needed people to believe that it would. Government bondholders were soon offered a tempting choice. They could keep their low-yield government debt, slow and predictable, or they could exchange it for shares in the South Sea Company, shares that promised excitement, growth, and extraordinary profit. Many chose excitement. As more debt was converted into shares, demand increased, and as demand increased, the price began to rise. At first, the rise was modest. Then it accelerated. Then it became explosive. People saw the price climbing and assumed it reflected real value. They assumed someone else had done the calculations. They assumed the government would not support something unstable. Members of Parliament invested. Influential bankers promoted it. Even the king publicly supported the company. Confidence spread not because of evidence, but because of authority. Soon, speculation turned into obsession. The streets of London buzzed with rumors. Coffee houses became trading floors. Conversations revolved nothing but prices, profits, and timing. New companies emerged almost overnight, each promising extraordinary returns. Some claimed to exploit new technologies. Others offered vague ventures overseas. One famously advertised itself as a company formed for a great purpose without revealing what that purpose actually was. And still, people invested, because prices kept rising. Among those watching this spectacle was Isaac Newton. Newton was not just intelligent, he was one of the most brilliant minds humanity has ever produced. He discovered the laws of motion, he explained gravity, he reshaped mathematics and physics forever. At first, Newton behaved rationally. He invested early, he made a significant profit, and he sold his shares, satisfied with his gains. But as the price continued to climb, something changed. Newton watched friends grow wealthier than him. He saw colleagues boast about fortunes multiplying overnight, and slowly, doubt crept in. Not doubt about the company, but doubt about his decision to leave. So Newton returned. He reinvested heavily, and he did so near the very peak of the bubble. When confidence finally cracked, it did so quietly. A few investors sold. Prices dipped slightly. Whispers of concern replaced certainty. Then, fear spread. People rushed to sell, but buyers disappeared. The price collapsed faster than it had risen.
Fortunes vanished in days, some vanished in hours. Isaac Newton lost a sum equivalent to millions in modern terms. Later, he reflected on the experience with a sentence that still echoes today. I can calculate the motion of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people. The collapse sent shockwaves through Britain. Lives were ruined, reputations were destroyed, trust in financial institutions evaporated. Parliament launched investigations, bribes were uncovered, corruption was exposed at the highest levels of government. One minister was imprisoned, others fled the country in disgrace. Britain survived the collapse, but it emerged shaken, not because money was lost, but because faith had been broken. The South Sea Bubble was never truly about South America. It was never about trade routes or shipping fleets. It was about belief. Belief that rising prices must reflect truth. Belief that intelligent people cannot be wrong. Belief that if everyone agrees, the risk must be gone. But markets do not reward intelligence alone. They reward discipline, they punish emotion, and they amplify human psychology. Fear and greed move faster than logic. And that is why this story still matters. Because the South Sea Bubble was not the last of its kind. It was one of the first. From railways to radio stocks, from dot-com companies to cryptocurrencies, from speculative manias to artificial intelligence hype. The names change, the technology changes, but human behavior does not. The South Sea Company did not fail because it was evil. It failed because people stopped asking difficult questions. And when belief replaces logic, bubbles do not fade slowly. They burst, quietly at first, then all at once. Thanks for listening.